And joining us now is Scott Schober, an international cybersecurity analyst. And Scott, what do you make of Facebook's announcement that they found some 32 pages that seem to be spewing disinformation related to the midterms?
Well, I think it's very concerning, and I have to give Facebook credit. I'm glad they didn't cover it up and they're bringing it out, because the election hacking and disruptions have been an ongoing problem. And I think with the upcoming elections, it's only going to get worse. There's going to be more meddling and more problems. So just the fact they brought it to light is good. The question is there more that we don't even know about? That's very likely. So we'll see what develops on this.
Yeah, and 32, that's not very much at all. I mean, given how many different pages there are. I mean, Facebook said, like, look, you had something like 200,000 people who had some sort of contact with these pages, but still, it's a small drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it is. It is very, very small in comparison to the big picture. But again, I'm just glad that at least private companies are now starting to come forward and share this information. In the past, there was this line between private and public, between these technology companies, especially the Googles, the Facebooks, and others, and the government sector. And that's causing a lot of problem when that information is not shared. So it's a big positive step, I think, today with what the DHS secretary stated about bringing private and public together, where they could share this information so they could stop possible cyber attacks. It's now at the point where they're saying the cyber threat toward critical infrastructure is actually a greater threat than that of terrorism, which is really scary.
Do you agree with that assessment, that the day is coming when cyber hackers are able to bring down the electric grid or cause all sorts of chaos in transportation infrastructure?
Yeah, absolutely. Because once they get into a computer network, then they work laterally. They could place malware. They can cause all kinds of havoc and cover their trail. So it could be a monumental hack. It starts out simple, but what it could lead to is extremely disastrous. Why? Because we count on all of this critical infrastructure. In fact, she identified today 3 key areas that they're going to really hone in on at the very, very beginning, and that's telecom, that's the energy, and that's the financial sectors, out of 16 total sectors of critical infrastructure that they're now going to guard very carefully. And they also announced that in 2019, they've increased the cybersecurity specific spending that is going to be helping support all these new initiatives to protect critical infrastructure, which is, again, a very positive step.
Scott, if the nightmare were to happen, how do you see it playing out? What would it involve, and what would the impact be?
Well, I think personally, my fear, if they attack something such as the electric grid, we're in serious trouble. There's not enough redundancy. There's not enough smarts, even though it is a smart grid, for them to reroute and provide power for everyone. And we don't have proper backup generators. And if you think about it, we're dependent upon electricity for everything, for our communication, for keeping our water clean, for transportation, our jobs, our schools, everything. So that, to me, is a weak point they really got to focus in on. And if they can't protect that properly, we are in trouble. It's as you mentioned there, the cyber hurricane might actually hit us.
And if, in fact, they were to bring down the electric grid, how quickly could that be repaired or fixed? Or once the hack is made, does this become a long-term problem to try to solve?
Yeah, I don't think it's a quick patch or a quick fix in this case, because if it's a skilled hacker, and again, they work laterally and they don't just target one specific part of the grid, but they affect the wider spread grid, what's going to happen is energy is going to be shifting from one region to another, and it just can't handle the demand. Our insatiable needs for electricity continue to grow and grow with electric vehicles, computers, electronics, everything. And they just can't handle it if it's a big, big targeted attack. That is scary.
Scott Schober, an international cybersecurity analyst. Scott, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on.